AmandaLand, AmandaLand, AmandaLand. Good morning, y'all. Sorry I'm late. Apologies. I slept in. I don't have like a good reason. I slept in. Sorry. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What a day. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you all. You were waking up on the right side of history. We are here with your news and truths by any joke necessary. And we've got a good show today. I'm excited about today's show. We have comedian Chay Guerrero joining us for 60-second headlines. So excited about that. And I don't know if you guys have seen the books that are like a kid's book about racism, a kid's book about empathy, a kid's book about etc. Well, we have the creator of that series and the author of the first one, a kid's book about racism, Jelani Memory, joining us today. So really excited about that. So that's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time to talk with Jelani. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's spring. It's the official beginning of the year. So that's why I'm giving you like spring flavors. So that's why I'm wearing like my green with my little flowers, right? And there's pants. There's pants. This is one of my favorite lines, Alamais. Like it would be my dream to like collab with them. I just got to get my artwork and my illustrations going. I got to get my art and illustrations going. They're coming. They are coming. And I love a co-ward, honey. One thing about Amanda, she gonna give you a lip, a wing liner, and a co-ward. Okay. So, welcome to the show. And for those of you all who don't know, let's do some quick little church announcements. As you know, we do this Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Please subscribe. We got to get the subscriber count up. So continue to tell your friends about what we're doing over here. Continue to drop in on other social media spaces and tell them, hey, have you checked out Views from AmandaLand? It's on AmandaLand, Amanda Seals TV. Continue to spread the word. That is really the best way to... That's the best form of marketing. Spreading the word is the best form of marketing. So continue to spread the word, y'all. Continue to spread the word. Speaking of spreading the word, also remember that my book, Body Waving Through the BS, is available for pre-order. It's available for pre-order. So, you know, go out there, get your pre-order on. If you've already pre-ordered, tell a friend about the book. And I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of sharing about, I mean, there's so much in the book, honestly. There's just so much that I can share enough excerpts before it drops to where y'all would still have plenty of book after, to be quite honest. So look out for my book. And I was trying to bring up the image here, but it seems like I don't have it in the system. But I'll bring it up another day. Also, remember to please replay the show. So shout out to our whole replay crew. I see y'all. I appreciate y'all. The replay crew takes their job very seriously, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that, because you're like, we are here. The replay crew is in the comments announcing replay crew. Okay. They're like, we know our job. I am also asking you to drop a seals in the chat if you like something I said, and you can also follow me on Patreon. And, our Patreon folks are a part of something that we do ever so often called the Passage Posse. And the Passage Posse is when we gather to talk about a passage from a book instead of the entire book, because, if you've read the entire book, you can speak to that, of course. But the truth is, I just don't have time to do like the continued series of a book club in the way that I would want to. But the Passage Posse allows us to gather and to talk about passages that really impact us and that have a lot of different levels and layers to go to, beyond simply just their context within the book. So shout out to the Passage Posse. Our next one will be April 17th, and it will be 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will be talking about Parable of the Sower. Parable of the Sower is the very prescient book by Octavia Butler that takes place, she wrote it in 1993, and it takes place in 2025. And it's just scarily accurate in its assessment of where things could go were we to not be conscious about climate change, corruption, etc. And within the context of where we are now, listen, these are the kinds of conversations that I want us to have. So if you haven't joined Patreon, please know that for the Parable of the Sower conversation on April 17th, it is for paid subscribers only. So shout out to the SEAL Squad and everybody who will be joining us for that. You also know that there was no way that I was going to let myself get away with not showing the actual cover of my book. So, there was just no way I was going to do that. No way I was going to do that. So there it is. I'm too much of a perfectionist to let that slide. So go get Body Waving Through the Bullshit. Through the BS. Go get Body Waving Through the BS wherever you get your books. You can pre-order. There's a list of Black bookstores that are New York Times reporting. I'm trying to get my New York Times bestseller. I know that it's a racket. I know. But I want it. Because it makes it easier to continue. You think Ta-Nehisi Coates could write his recent book about Palestine had he not been a several times New York Times bestseller? No, he couldn't. They'd be like, you better go self-publish, buddy. So it's like the blue check. It allows you to have a certain level of aplomb to say what needs to be said. Okay? And I just feel like what's in this book is what needs to be said anyway. Thank you, John C. Side Effects of Transparency dropped today. I'll be showing a little clip of that later in the show. When you sleep so good that it's almost like you slept too good. Like, I slept really good, and now I'm like, do I need to keep sleeping? So, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But you know what? Y'all know what it's time for, man. I got to find out where y'all are at. And so let's do it. Are you ready? Are you ready to do it? Hey! Yeah. Good morning, everybody. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. I already see Reese up in here, so I know I got not London. I got England in the building. Lowell, Massachusetts. Long Beach, California. Charlotte, North Carolina. We got Brooklyn. Atlanta. Shout it. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. We got Los Angeles in specifically mid-city, so they are not dealing with traffic. We got Greensboro, North Carolina. Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. Memphis, Tennessee, Maine. Lake Worth, Florida. Dedham, Massachusetts. Morristown, New Jersey. Tampa, Rochester. They said ICE is there. You know what you need to be yelling in them streets? La migra! Chinga la migra! Okay. We got Lightail, Texas. We got lots of Florida people today. We got Pueblo, Colorado. Why am I saying Pueblo, Colorado? Why do I have an acento? We got Tacoma, Washington. We got Boise, Idaho, back again. Shout out to the potatoes. We got Birmingham, England. Large up Birmingham. First time getting to watch live and comment. You know we love Birmingham. Peaky Blinders. Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to Orlando, Florida. Go say hi to my mom. We've got Melbourne. Shout out to Linda. You know when Linda's in here, she's up late. Okay, so give some props to Linda in Melbourne, Australia. She's up late. Shout out to the koalas. All right, here's a funny little story. So when I would be hosting like shows, like on TV, and it would be late and I would be extremely tired, but when the light comes on, I have to be like, I would tell myself to get me to smile. Like I would literally conserve all energy between takes. And then before the camera goes on, I go, kittens and koalas, kittens and koalas, kittens and koalas, kittens and koalas. Because no matter what state of mind I'm in, the thought of kittens and koalas brings me joy every time. All right, who else we got going on here? Yes, I have been to Australia, Reese. I went to Australia when I was 3 years old. How about that? I was looking at the Sydney Opera House before I was 5. We got St. Louis. We got Alabama in the building. Andrew, why are you calling out that I don't have glasses on today? Oh my God. Long Beach, LBC. We got, who else? Virginia. And do we have any other internationals before we go to the map? AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you're watching from. We got the Compton CPT. We got Newark, New Jersey. We got Nyack, New York in the building. We got the Virgin Islands. We got Johannesburg, South Africa. We have 2 South Africas in here right now. Yo, we wow worldwide with it, y'all. AmandaLanders here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you watching from. We got 2 people in Nyack. We got Rancho Cucamonga. We have Dublin, Ireland in the building. The Loco de Irish. I freaking love it. Y'all just make my day. I freaking love it. All right, let's see. Did we have Virgin Islands on the map? I don't think we had Virgin Islands on the map, y'all. I think we got to add the Virgin Islands on the map. Did we have Ireland on the... We didn't have Ireland on the map. We did not have Ireland on the map. I love Ireland. I love the name. I love the way they talk. The Irish. All right. Let's see right here. We've got Virgin Islands right here. Yeah. I'm dropping it. Dropping a pin right here on the Virgin Islands. I know that my Irish accent is a bit Lucky Charms. Okay, I know that. I apologize. But I'm working on it. All right? I'm watching a lot of Irish movies. I'm watching a lot of Irish interviews, and I'm working on it. Okay? Thank you, Rochelle. She says it's pretty good. Because I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to appropriate. You know? And then it's like stuff like that, like that's not Irish. Stop adding that in. They don't say stuff like Okay, here we go. There's a pin for Ireland. Hold on. The Irish. Tommy Shelby. Tommy Shelby is an Irish. All right. But he lived in Birmingham. Okay. And then we're going to flip this over because Detroit said we didn't add Detroit yesterday. So Detroit would tell you. You said I sound like Seamus Finnegan from Harry Potter? Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Seamus. You know, Seamus was the one who was like, Harry, you're lying. You're lying. Voldemort isn't back. You just want to be in you just always want to be the center of attention. And then he had to apologize later. Oh, we have an indigenous person from the Osage Res in Oklahoma. What First Nation are you from? Please tell us. Felicia Madison said she just finished all the Harry Potter movies for the first time. And, you know, if it was possibly anyone else, I would really have judgment on you. But because you are very much an essential element here at Views from AmandaLand, we're not going to charge you up. But shame. Okay. Siobhan Fenton, we have someone is joining from Hawaii. Okay. Hawaii. What island? I don't like that this map only has 2 islands. Okay. I don't. Oh, Osage. My bad. Duh, Amanda. You are Osage. Yes. Oklahoma. That movie. Aloha. Okay, so there's more islands here. Okay, there's the Big Island. All right. Then we have Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Lanai. All right. Oahu, Big Island of Hawaii, Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and Lanai. I'm going to need them to, you know what? Let me just add them. Because I don't like that. So I'm going to add them right here. Let me get a pen that I'm appreciative of. Okay. So this is the Big Island. That's Oahu, Maui, Kauai, Lanai. I don't appreciate that. Okay. Yeah. So I had a friend named Lindsay Mayrow who grew up in Hawaii, and she taught me a hula dance when we were in 5th grade. Wait. Ho we hiya ba le la ile Kaolana hu avi iania hula vi iania ale ela ie Kaolana hula vi iania ale ela ie Yeah. Why I remember that from 5th grade? I don't know why. The memory. But I remember that. So shout out to Lindsay Mayrow. She got really mad because I told her sister's name was Amanda, but they had said something to me that pissed me off, and I told her sister Santa wasn't real. I was like, you know what? Santa ain't real. And she was like, oh! Quit playing with me. All right, we got Chay here, but real quick, we're going to do our word of the day. All right? Let's get into our word of the day. Yeah, the kids is always trying to play with me. Jordy, please. Intractable. The word is intractable. INTRACTABLE. Oh my God. If you all could see the madness happening here. Hey. He tired. But I love it because when Jordy wasn't here when I was writing the book and like packages, I would just get a notice that my package had been delivered. I felt some type of way. I felt violated. Like I did not know y'all was on my doorstep. Okay, intractable. INTRACTABLE. Intractable is an adjective that means hard to manage, hard to manage, intractable. Y'all be like, Amanda, how come your vocabulary is so good? These cards literally came from not 11th grade. All of these cards of vocab words are from 11th grade. Shout out to Miss Poro at Dr. Phillips High School. Intractable. Can you use it in a sentence? Yasmin Abdullah says Tauruses are known to be very intractable, aka hard to manage. My mother is a Taurus. That is accurate. Adrena Garcia says my 3-year-old is intractable. Jordy with all this barking is intractable. Okay, I know, Angela. I know he doing his job. I be thanking him like, thank you, Jordy, for helping me feel safe. Ooh, Tony, you knew that was coming. The new administration is intractable. Megan Rolfe says all of life's responsibilities piled on top of each other can be intractable. Who are you telling? I tell you all the time, I'm doing AP level adulting over here, yo. AP level adulting. Jamil R says the status of the public healthcare system in Canada is becoming more and more intractable with every election cycle. I didn't even know that. I don't know really much about Canada except y'all be about that ice and snow and racism. Hamid says 2 kids that are Tauruses 10 days apart. So he said what he needed to say without even saying it. Reese says adult is intractable. Adulthood is intractable, point blank. But I feel like adulthood doesn't have to be intractable. Like I really wish folks was doing writing back in the day so they could tell us like it wasn't better or it was. Okay. DMV, Trini Dominican says DMV traffic is intractable. You got Trinis and Dominicans in your family. That's probably very intractable at times as well. Okay. Woo! Driving in Grenada is intractable. Listen. First of all, what do you know about driving in Grenada? So, in Grenada, we drive on the left-hand side of the road. But people drive like the road is their road. That's the problem. That's what makes it intractable. They just be... Okay, Andrew, you knew we're going to end it right here. Voldemort was truly intractable. Okay? He was intractable. So there we go. All right, we're going to get into our 60-second headlines. So let's play a little intro and then bring our guest up. Yay! Yeah! AmandaLand. 60-second headline. And I run down some news right quick.
Run it down, mama. Put us on.
All right, coming to the stage.
How are you? The intractable Chay Guerrero.
The intractable? I don't think you're intractable.
Depends who you ask.
Fair. Hey, you got to know you. You know what I'm saying? You got to know you. Chay, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, man, I am as good as can be in these situations. You're reporting on this. I'm trying to find the happiness in life with all the chaos that is happening in the world.
Do you have safety?
Something? I was just thinking about it this morning, literally when I woke up. Crazy you say that I felt I am very blessed because I do have a great partner who's looking out for me. I have love. I am realizing that I have a good shell around me, that I am protecting myself should the worst, because we're seeing a lot of the worst, come at my doorstep. So I felt very like a weird sense of like, at least I know I'm surrounding myself with the right people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give people some context? Because we're literally having an inside conversation right now.
Oh, well, I just recently got engaged.
I'm like, wait, we're having a chit chat and there's people watching.
That's right. I recently got engaged. I got,
Congrats!
Thank you so much. And you know what? In all this chaos, it is kind of still a defiant move to be like, you know what? We're still going to have a sense of normalcy as far as we can in our lives. We were thinking about it. Is it the right time to get engaged? Is this and that? And I decided I'm not going to let this, Cheeto dictate what decisions I get to make in my life. So I got engaged end of last year. I did it while I was in DR for the first time in almost 30 years.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a very beautiful thing to do it right, but in her mom's old hometown in a country that I haven't visited in 30 years, and it was very beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You see the people, they're like, congratulations.
That's my life story. 60-second headlines of my life.
I mean, I think it's so true. And I think Palestinians really show this, like where they're like, we still getting married, even though things could happen tomorrow. There's still iftar feasts that were happening amongst the rubble. Yeah. And the thing about Americans, though, is Americans be like, we need to keep a sense of normalcy, but they take it too far. Like it becomes escapism.
Yes. Yeah. Disconnecting almost and trying to, you're right. It is trying to disconnect in a way where it was like, nope, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. You're like, that's not a healthy way.
Right. Like that's how we're doing. Like we're doing it in spite of, but not in forgetful of.
Yes, exactly.
You know? And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to get into our 60-second headlines. So first we're going to talk about Mike Johnson gets flipped. So let me explain to y'all what's going on in the house, because, I think he was shocked. I think Mike Johnson was like, hold up. I know this Latino chick ain't trying to play me, but, she is. Okay, so this is Mike Johnson, and this is Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who, by the way, is a nut. Okay, like she is a nut. This is the one who had a literal machine gun pin on her lapel while she was speaking in front of the House, like a day after a school shooting. All right, she and George Santos was squad. So that should tell you everything. All right. Now she is out there in Florida, and she was in the Freedom Caucus, and the Freedom Caucus is basically the members of the House who are right-wing nationalists, alt-right nationalists, but also have a single-digit IQ. So it's like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, when Matt Gaetz was there, Mike Johnson does have he's smart, but he's the devil. So he may not have a single-digit IQ, but he has a single-digit hort. Okay, so the Freedom Caucus includes those people and more. But she bounced from the Freedom Caucus because she had joined up with Democratic Representative Brittany Patterson for a bipartisan bill about proxy voting for women who have just had a baby. Okay, this to me makes like sense. And essentially proxy voting means that someone can vote on your behalf if you are not able to make it physically to vote in the House. And as of right now, you have to physically be there as a House of Representatives member to vote. So it was an issue when Byron Donaldson had someone like phony proxy voting for him. Not enough of an issue because he didn't get censured or anything, but he definitely had someone proxy vote for him while he was he was somewhere doing something that wasn't him being there. So she and Brittany Patterson, who just had a baby, and is literally like, y'all, she is at the mic with the baby. If she was really bad about it, she would have had her boob out. But because honestly, like that if we really trying to do something, she would have been like, you know what, y'all?
Do you want me to be doing this on the floor or from home?
Like, how do you want it? So y'all, he said, nah. We're not taking your bill to the flow. We're not taking your bill to the flow. And Luna said, oh, for real? Oh, how would I say that in Espanol?
No me digas.
No me digas?
No me digas.
No me digas? Okay, pinche. Okay, so she did what's called a discharge petition, when a rank and file member can go over a higher member's head or a committee member's head to get a bill brought to the floor by collecting 217 votes. Y'all, she got the votes. Okay? She got the votes, and she got it. She got the votes. And guess what? He said, we're not going to vote on this. We're shutting down Congress. Literally, the House of Representatives is closed for the rest of the week because she got the votes to bring it to the floor, and he was so against it. and so upset at her, I guess, disobedience that he just shut it down. All because they don't want women to be able to vote who just had a baby. What you think about this, Chay?
I love their sense of like, they're always trying to act like they're all high and mighty, but then as soon as somebody does something they're like, I'm going to take my ball and go home. That's essentially what he did. He took his ball and he went home. And it's also, I didn't know she was Latina, which was like, I read the name and I was like, oh man, is she one of these Republican Latinos? I came across Salazar pretty recently. I don't know if you know who she is.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, totally side subject. Sorry, I'm bypassing. I went to like DC this week, and Salazar, that Republican, looked at me and she was like, "Do you want a picture?" And I went, "Nah, I'm good." I went, "Nah, I'm good." And I saw in her eyes, she was like, "You asshole," and I was like, "Nah, I'm good." Like, I don't want to ruin my image by standing next to you.
Yeah, cut.
And okay, first of all, like, it's also insane that Republicans, I don't understand how they are able to find these laws that bypasses norms and get what they want on the floor. Like she, I think it's a good thing, if you have a child that you can vote by proxy, I think that's, and I'm sure Republicans should be fighting for this, and some of their members are 109 years old and can't be wheeled into Congress anymore, but that's a whole nother story. But the fact that she figured out, oh, if I get 217 votes, I can bring it to the floor. Where was this Democratic tactics? Like, I never saw this from the Democrats to be like, we really do need immigration reform. We really do need healthcare. Well, the speaker's not going to bring it up. Cool, I'm going to get 217 votes and bring it out to the floor. Somehow, when evil wants to thrive, they always find a rule within the law that allows them to thrive. I do not understand that. And by the way, I'm not saying what she's saying is evil.
No. Here's what I'm gonna have a different take on this. I think when people want evil to thrive, they ignore the rules that are available to them.
Yeah.
These rules were available.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's a great point. Yes.
You know, like it's not like she uncovered some mystery. So you just said exactly what confuses me all the time about Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this was always there, why wasn't it put in place?
I mean, I look back on how many times immigration reform wasn't passed because Republicans said that the Hester rule says that a bill cannot be brought up if a majority of the party does not want it. I'm like, what the hell is a Hester rule? Right now, we're not even respecting the Fourth Amendment right, and all of a sudden, Republicans are bringing up a Hester rule.
So at the beginning of every Congress, every session of Congress outlines rules for that session of Congress. And the rules are not always the same. Like, some Congress might be like, we're not doing the Hester rule. But then other sessions of Congress might be like, we are doing the Hester rule. And so with every session of Congress, which is also problematic, right? With every session of Congress, they can change the rules. So for instance, when Kevin McCarthy was the House Speaker, the rule that got put in place that got him to be finally House Speaker was that anytime someone wanted to take him out, they didn't need a majority to do so.
That's right. That's how Matt Gaetz was able to take him out. Yes.
They just threw in this rule. So, I should say that I don't know if this rule was available in these other sessions of Congress. But what I will say is that they do have there is an ability to put rules in place, right? And for what it's worth, this rule is in place in this session of Congress. 217 votes is not the majority. No. There's 465 members of Congress. So this could be enacted. Yeah. This is also, by the way, let me point this out. This is for mothers and fathers.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's some congressmen who also are going to benefit coming up that are Republican who are, for this. Because I think he got like almost 9. Well, she got almost 9 people to go against him. That was the shocking thing why he shut it down, because they have such a slim majority that 9 people flipping on him is embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing, and he shut it down, and people are like, well, he's shutting it down because he's upset. But I feel like he shut it down because he has to go and scold everybody and be like, don't you all understand that we have to be squad?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, if I may say, it's also, they're also against giving maternity and paternity leave to the regular citizens, but now they're in Congress voting for their own maternity and paternity leave. And
Say it.
debating how important it is to be able to do your job but still be able to be with your family. I mean, these are also Republicans who are having 8, 9 kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
you know, they expect every year they want to be able to have those 3, 4 months off whenever they have children.
Exactly. So the hypocrisy continues.
Full display.
All right, so let's get into this next conversation, which you can definitely speak very much to. So the deportations that are happening, I think deportations is a generous word. These are abductions.
Disappearances.
Can you speak? Okay, so I'm going to play this video from Eli Mistal. Eli Mistal is a Black man who looks like he came from the future and is constantly trying to tell us what we need to know. And I feel like people need to be listening on the basis of the fact that he's also like making a lot of sense, but he also he looks like he came from the future. So just respect it.
This is what fascism looks like. I don't know what y'all expected it to look like. I don't know if you thought that one day would be a headline in the New York Times, fascism here today. This is what it looks like. And when you say detained, I'm actually going to push back a little bit. That is a nice way of putting it. These people are being abducted and yes, disappeared from our streets under executive fascism authority, right? And so when you say the Democrats, all of whom voted to confirm that little Marco Rubio, he had
to stop himself because he was definitely about to say that little bit.
I was like, I finished it for him.
Demanding questions. Maybe they should have asked him some questions before they voted to confirm him, would be my question for the Democrats. In terms of the legal structure here, I think it is important for people to understand that there is none. We're going to talk about the Alien Enemies Act, and we're going to talk about the trumped-up legal authority Rubio and Trump to be claimed to be using. But ultimately, we are beyond a point of basic due process. As you pointed out, Simone, these people haven't even been charged in court. The government has brought no evidence to suggest what their illegal activities may have been. Ozturk, the student, as far as we know, all she did was write an article in a student newspaper, and she was abducted off the street. This is what fascism looks like. And so I hope people look at it, and I hope the people who voted for Trump look at it and understand that this is what they've done to this country.
My only argument here is I genuinely do not believe that voting in the election is what caused the election to go the way it went. I genuinely believe it was rigged. They have said it several times. And I feel like when people are saying this is what people voted for, one, there are people who want this. There are people who wanted this, and they are like, yeah, this is what we wanted. But there are other people who genuinely are dumb, and they play off of the dumbness. Yeah. But what do you feel about what he's saying?
I mean, first of all, I think as coming from the community who's getting a lot of backlash as to why it's happening, you know, a lot of Latino men voted in great numbers for Trump. So there's also this sort of on the internet, maybe I'm finding too much online of this people just not caring that it's happening to Latinos because they're like, well, they voted for this. You know, this is
that's why I think it's all fraud.
Yeah, I think it's all fraud. And also, you know, I try to, as much as I can, educate my community on how much Russia, and I actually infiltrated these spaces. There's a great book by Paola Ramos called Defectors, which breaks down as much as Meta, Twitter, and TikTok were trying to, in a way, debunk misinformation in English. It was rampant in Spanish. They spend absolutely no money in Spanish, and Russian you know, agents or whatever were paying Latino influencers to spread positive messages about Trump. And there were times where I walked into barbershops to talk to Dominicans who, you know, about politics, and they were spewing Trump's word for word and had absolutely no idea on what Kamala's talking points were or how she was willing to help out businesses.
She didn't have any talking points. Come on.
Okay, well, to be fair, not even like, you know, any kind of tax breaks or anything, but they knew. it's one thing to know the facts. It's another thing just to know the misinformation. And they were
facts.
so, you know
Hell
what I mean?
yes.
It's not like even
yes.
they could tell some of the facts about Kamala. Fine, she
Right,
might,
right.
you know, but they could spew the misinformation tremendously. So yes, I think a lot of this was people being fooled. A lot of this was voter suppression. So we're in a place where not the majority of the country wanted this, and it's being warped. And a lot of people are like, well, they deserve this to happen because they voted for them. I don't believe that at all, as you, you know, same as you. But it's also very scary because I have been talking about this for 4 or 5 years now. I've been saying that the undocumented community is the canary in the coal mine. If you do not care how they
Speak
are
on. Wait, real quick. Just say
Mhm.
what that euphemism is.
It's basically saying, you know, basically they would take a canary into a coal mine to see if there was, you know, like dangerous gases. And if the canary died, like, oh yeah, it's a dangerous spot. Like we're in, we should run. We were that, you know, I've been saying, you know, you saw women in detention centers and being there for years without any kind of due process, having some medical horrors happen to her, sterilized, sexually abused, all these things that were happening. You know, Latino men also being, you know, abused in there, being there for years, being picked up for any reason. I've been telling people that ICE is moving more towards fascism because ICE is looking into everyone. ICE has been reported to looking into people's social media accounts, even if you're not an immigrant, of partners and siblings and things like that. So all these things that we've been saying that it's been happening to the undocumented community, and I've been saying that if Trump comes into office, it's going to happen across the board because he's ready to weaponize everything. I hate that we're here. I mean, I know we all hate that we're here, but I'm like, we know as people who have been talking about this for so long, it is so unreal that we are actually here, that people are being disappeared in the streets when we've been telling you it's going to happen and you thought it was all hyperbole. We have gone down, we've crossed the Rubicon.
So that was on the weekend show now that replaced Joy Reid, and Simone Sanders was there. The last time I was in the same space with Simone Sanders was a few years ago. I was on her show and I was saying the system is absolutely dysfunctional and it has to be broken down. And she was like, so what's your plan? And I was like, I don't know what the plan is, but there has to be a revolution. And she was like, well, the system is made to correct itself. So it's, and she literally finished the segment with saying that the system corrects itself. It was made to fix itself. And so, you know, what I'm talking about, if I don't have a plan, I shouldn't really be saying anything about it. And then went to commercial. And then the minute it cut, she was like, don't mess with me. I was a communications major. I got out that mic so quick because we was going to have it was going to be a problem.
Oh my God.
It was going to be a problem. And these are the people who are on television. Like, I've come to understand, Chay, that there's really no safety in the visibility of how do I put it? Okay. Like, I think about this and I think about how they're starting to do this with like American citizens, right? Mm-hmm. Like they're starting to really like mess with American citizens as well. And I've had to say to myself, if they messed with you, Amanda, none of those people in visible positions are going to say anything because they are afraid to literally acknowledge what it is. That's why someone like Eli being on that show was so important to me to show, because they're all sitting there on their hands like, and his passion is righteous anger that, to your point, you're like, why isn't this everyone?
Yeah. They just admitted that they accidentally sent an innocent person. They admitted it.
Yes,
they admitted it.
Kilmar.
That they sent him to El Salvador, the mega prison, the detention camp. And now they're like, oh, we're not going to bring him back. Oops. This can happen to everyone. I saw a great video yesterday. It goes, nobody's a U.S. citizen because they can take it away from you. They're taking away, they're going to denaturalize people.
Well, let me tell you really quickly. There is nothing that outlines what a citizen is in the Constitution.
Right.
Just so y'all know this.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
There is nothing in the Constitution that outright says this is a citizen, which it refers to persons, right? So that's all. And there was, during the Constitutional Convention and, you know, the Reconstruction, like there was an idea of like, well, we need to like verbally clear up what this is, because like if the blacks are going to be citizens now, then we need to be able to say like what that means. There's also nothing in the Constitution about education.
Great. Of course they're not. Educate the people. Why would they put that in there?
So that's why, like, you know, agencies were created, you know, like the DOJ, et cetera, to kind of like fill these gaps that are not, but we all know that they only fill gaps. And I'm so with you on the fact that the immigrants are the canary in the coal mine, and this idea that, you know, that being a citizen doesn't really mean safety.
Yeah. And I'm honestly just, I mean, I knew these crazies were going to come out of the woodwork, but you know, when I post stuff, it automatically goes to Facebook, so I have no like, I don't really control that. And
you can control that.
I can't control that, but I choose not to. Like, I'm like, whatever, what is happening over there? And I went the other day, and I was like, let me just see what the comments are. And I forget how much Facebook is almost like a right wing space, and the amount of people, just hundreds of comments are going, I'm so happy this person got picked up. I am so glad this is happening.
I don't know that these are real. Are these real people?
You know what? You just made a great point. You just made a great point.
I don't know, bro.
You're right. You're right.
And I used to be like, yes, they are. But now I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't know. You know what? As I was talking, I was like, you know what? I don't even know these are bots, and these are just trying to. But I'm just saying, I'm sure a good amount of them are real people.
The reason I say that is because, like, when you were talking about how they were like sowing misinformation and sowing discord, like it's like you don't even need that many fake people to get real people to follow the fake news. Ooh, I'm spitting.
No, yeah, you're right, and it's just. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just, for me, it's been a little disheartening on both. And also the Latino community is also, you know, there's a lot of, you know, Latinos for Trump in the comments going, you know, I'm so glad it's happening. I'm just like.
Why are they glad, though?
It's, you know, citizenship has become this, I mean, I guess, you know.
Is it like elitism?
Citizenship has become like whiteness, like this new kind of elitist kind of situation. Like they almost act like it's a limited supply and you can only let a certain amount of people in. And they don't want to let anybody else into the club because they're citizens and they worked hard for it and yada, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And this sort of like, well, I might not be fully white, but I am a light-skinned Latino U.S. citizen. So that's got to be some cachet. And I'm like, no, it's not, bro. No, it's not. They're ready to go after you. They only needed your vote. They don't care about you.
Like the lady down in Miami who was like, they tricked us. They tricked us. They used us. Yes, they used you. They did.
I saw this one guy with the heavy accent like, oh, you know, Trump is going to deport you because you're illegal. And I'm like, bro, that accent is going to get you in trouble. Like, what are you doing?
That accent, though, is getting you deported. Okay, real quick before we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So they coming after our favorite, my favorite, Luigi. I'm not gonna speak for you.
I'm more of a Waluigi Malium.
So they are. Hold on, let me make this smaller. I'll bring you back real quick. So the DOJ directs prosecutors to seek a death penalty for Luigi Mangione. However, a gunman who killed 23 in the racist attack at a Texas Walmart has been offered a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. Okay, so Attorney General Pam Bondi, she said on Tuesday that she's going to seek the death penalty for Luigi, who was charged with murdering a blah, blah, blah. Okay, she said that this is a part of a push to revive the widespread, They want this nation to be Saudi Arabia, I swear, to revive the widespread use of capital punishment in federal cases. Ms. Bondi said her decision came after careful consideration. That was in quotes, and was in line with President Trump's executive order directing the Justice Department to renew death penalty requests after President Biden declared a moratorium on capital punishment for most federal offenders in 2021.
Yeah, and them showing who they're going after and who they're not going after is very telling. You know, they don't care about 23 Latino lives.
Say it.
They do not care about the 23 Latino lives and the other dozen that were injured. They care about one billionaire. It's to send a message.
Was he even a billionaire?
I don't know. You know, it was all spread out. Some properties, some in stocks. How they do for all billionaires. You know, but it just goes to show you who they care about going after.
What do y'all do in the house to shut out the noise when you need to find happiness?
A lot of Mario Party.
There we go. All right, y'all.
I'm a Luigi person. Just a lot of that kayak one really gets some exercise out.
Luigi's still in the consciousness.
Yes.
Chay, thank you so much for joining us. I always appreciate, smart, funny, thoughtful commentary, and you are all about that. Can you tell folks where they can get more Chay Guerrero in their lives?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you having me and everything that you do. You can check me out through all my social media channels, Chay Guerrero ENG, and at ChayGuerrero.com. And also remember to pick up Body Waving Through the BS. Pick up the book. I'm gonna pick it up. Yeah,
thank you.
And April, in April, 17th to 19th, I'll be at the Punchline opening up for Liz Mealy. If you are in Philadelphia area and want to check out the shows.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Chay, for joining us here at Views from AmandaLand. Have a great one. Lovely. And you know what? We're going to turn right around and get into our ambassador of the day. I told y'all we have Jelani Memory joining us, and I am not a liar. So that's what's happening. AmandaLand. Ambassador of the week. Our distinguished guest. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the class. Jelani, how are you?
I'm good. I didn't know I'd be ambassador of the week.
Yeah.
What an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, you are ambassador of the week. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I was telling everybody that you were coming on the show, and I'm going to read just a brief bio. Jelani Memory is an African-American entrepreneur, thinker, and constant learner. He lives in Portland, Oregon with his wife and 6 kids. Has there been more than 6 now?
No, it's
okay.
Still 6.
You kept it at 6. All right. Because, sometimes bios haven't been updated. It's like, actually, it's 9 now. All right. In 2018, he wrote a book for his 6 kids called A Kid's Book About Racism. And it has blossomed into a full line, y'all. A full line of books that really help children navigate the nuances of this world we are in. You can see some of them behind Jelani. And I bought several the other day because I basically treat them like when people come to the house who have kids, they leave with a book.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, your kid need this book. I feel like your baby need this particular book. All right. And so here are some of the titles just so you all, because I know you all have seen these books. A kid's book about racism, anxiety, belonging, feminism, disabilities. Reza Eslan did a kid's book about Palestine, right?
Israel and Palestine.
Yep. So, okay, just some basic background. Give the people the basics of how this started.
Yeah. So I have 6 kids. That's a lot of kids. It's okay to gasp. It's a blended family. So it's like Brady Bunch, right? I got 2 Black biological kids and 4 white stepkids. And having that conversation around race, culture, color, and racism with my kids felt so important. And look, I didn't grow up with a dad. My wonderful white mom tried the best she could, but we didn't really have these conversations growing up, except amongst each other as siblings. So I wanted my kids to have something better. So like any good dad, I made a book for my kids. It was only supposed to be 1 copy. We'll start that conversation on racism and basically make it okay for them to always come to me with questions, their experiences at school, the soccer field, you name it.
Question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Because I know you've told this story 50 million times. So my goal is always to try and ask a question that hasn't been asked.
Divert me. Love it.
Did you doubt that you should write this book at any point?
No.
Because, I feel like some parents be like, I don't know if I want my kids to know about racism yet and blah, blah,
No, I actually quite the opposite. Growing up with a really traumatic childhood, I realized not having the conversations too early was a bigger risk than having them too late, or the other way around. I wanted to start those conversations as early as possible with my kids, so that they could ask me questions and not experience things alone. So I wrote the book in a week. I designed it in a week. I handed a copy to my kids, and they saw what I didn't see. Is they were like, "Dad, this is so cool." This is 2 10-year-olds, by the way. They were like, "You can make a kid's book about anything," and I was like, "Huh." Yeah, I was like, "Well, what would you do a book about?" And my son L was like, "I do a kid's book about ice cream," and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's a fun point."
I would buy that.
But my son Jay was like, "I do a kid's book about divorce," and I was like, "Oh." And all of a sudden, all these sort of neurons started firing for me, because of what I realized was, by me actually taking the brave step to put this book in front of my kids, wasn't just going to spark a conversation about racism. It was actually going to spark all these other conversations and all these other vulnerable moments. And I was like, man. And so I was running another company at the time. I did no business starting a publishing company. I'd never written a book other than my little book that I'd made for my kids.
Right.
But I was like, man, I really think there's something here. And I don't think anybody is either brave or stupid enough to do this. And so I remember one afternoon, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm not going to start a publisher, but if I did, what topics would I do? A kid's book about what? And I was like, well, we got to talk about sex. We got to talk about love. We got to talk about depression. We got to talk about anxiety. We got to talk about bullying. We got to talk about death. We got to talk about cancer. And I went and I literally took me 10 minutes to rattle off 100 ideas, and I had to stop. And I was like, whoa, I can
do this.
Going. Like, this is too easy. And I was like, nobody's going to do this, because you sort of need this strange Voltron of maladies and superpowers to be able to do it. Me, I have 6 kids, so I spend more time being a dad than anything else. I'm an entrepreneur by trade, so I start companies and businesses and products. And I genuinely think there is no too early with any conversation, almost with any kid, on the most difficult, challenging, tough, sticky, worst topics. And so I was like, man, I just got to do this in some way to see if it'll work, but also to go, these are the kind of books that I wish I had when I was a kid.
There you go, yeah.
And these are the kind of books that this next generation really deserves. If they're going to build that world that we all think we deserve, I'm tired of convincing adults, because it's too hard, and most of them don't change their minds.
Facts.
But kids can grow up with these ideas. And what is a generation of kids who grow up with these ideas around understanding systemic racism at 6 years old, understanding, dynamics of power, understanding democracy? Like, what kind of generation grows up, and what kind of world do they build? What kind of societies, what kind of communities do they build? And so I took the leap in 2019 and launched with 12 books. And it's been a wild ride ever since.
Are there any titles that surprised you that you hadn't even considered, and it was like, oh, I guess,
yeah, we I had a long list of titles, and I was like, we got to do these. And every once in a while, somebody would come to me with a suggestion. I thought, that's interesting. So one of them was nervous system regulation. How do we regulate our bodies? And especially for kids, it's really difficult. I thought, great book, bad sales. It's just a terrible title of kids' book about nervous, just too long. And it's been one of our best books, because
I was going to say, I bought it. I bought that book for me.
There you go. See, that's and so we, for me, it's about finding the voice and the topic and trying to align those things and not putting huge pressure on what I think will do well and won't do well. We ended up doing a book with Jessica Biel on periods. And I thought, yeah, we should probably do sort of, sexual health, sort of body stuff. Periods, yeah, sure. And going through the process of making the book, I just thought, man, I'm actually the demographic for this book because I grew up as that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid who didn't know anything about periods, even though I had 2 sisters and a mom. And it took me till college to first sort of start to get my understanding. And even then, now I'm a dad of kids who have periods. And it's like, there's stigma, there's all this stuff surrounded around it. And so I had all this stuff that I was actually needing to unpack with this book that I thought, this is the book that I needed when I was 7 years old to start with, to destigmatize this thing that half of the population experiences.
So you talked about in the process of writing the book. So can you share with folks what that process is?
Yeah, it's wild, it's crazy, and it is not like anything in the publishing world. We have made 200 books with this process, and it is both foolproof and chaotic and crazy. The closest proxies are improv jazz and improv comedy meets group therapy. We write all of our books through a 1-day workshop process. We bring in an author for 3 to 5 hours, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person. We spend the whole first half on personal story, telling our life stories through the lens of the topic, whatever that topic might be. Maybe we know a lot about the topic, maybe we don't, but we try and put all of those vulnerable gems. Like, so me, I would talk about not growing up with a dad and neglect from my mom and abuse from my brother and trying to wrestle with chronic depression at, age 14. I would actually walk through those things as vulnerably as I can through the lens of the topic. And then by the time I've gone and our creative director's gone and our editor's gone, now it's the author's turn. And we've sort of set a stage to go, hey, you're going to be vulnerable too. You're going to spill all your guts too, right? And there's a bit of a social pressure there, but there's also trust to go, we've already gone there. You're safe to go there too. Once we do that, then there's a healthy conversation of going, what must go in this book? What must go in this book about addiction? What must go in this book about joy? What must go in this book about coping skills? All books that we've done. And then whole second half, we write the book together. And it sounds like it shouldn't work. We've got about 2 hours left at that moment, but we work together and we trust each other, and the creativity's bubbling because you just spilled your life story. So you're sort of unblocked and totally free to do that. And we do a litmus test at the end. We have the author read the book, and it's a litmus test on 2 fronts. One, does this read, right? Are we listening to it, and does it sound like a children's book? And then we ask ourselves the second question is, could this have made a massive impact on me when I was 6, 7, 8 years old?
Right.
Could this have changed the trajectory of my life? Was this a conversation that I didn't get that I desperately needed? And if we can say yes to those both those questions, we know we're on to something. So that's the first draft manuscript. We spend a handful of weeks editing, a handful of weeks designing. Every time I try and explain this to somebody who's published a book before, they go, well, but wait, but what about? And I go, no, that all happens in the workshop. They go, yeah, but what about what do I do before the workshop? You don't do anything before the workshop. It happens in the workshop. And the sort of the crux of it is it's about choosing the right voice for the topic. They need to be unassailable. They need to be unimpeachable. They need to be, through their life lived experience, through their identity, through their education, through their expertise, they need to be able to deliver on that topic. And I'm not saying we're batting 1,000, but we've done pretty well about choosing authors.
As I'm listening to you, I'm just like, which one is my book? You know what's funny is that right now it's like there's all these like big, like the titles are about things that range, right, in terms of their expansiveness and then their simplicity, because something that's like Side Effects of Israel and Palestine has a very expansive conversation that has to happen that I feel like is different than I said Side Effects because that's the name of my that's my podcast. A kid's book about. But then there's also like a kid's book about divorce, which is, I feel like, less political, right? And it's more experiential. And then I find that there's at this point things that I would never have applied to kids need to know about this to understand the world better, but
Mm,
like it's something that I wouldn't think need to be earnestly discussed, but like the concept of just like truth, like
yeah.
honesty. Like we're in such a land of lies
Yeah.
that I genuinely am like, I was taught about that in school. Like I was taught that it mattered to be like honest and tell the truth. And I don't know if kids are taught that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that society even says that anymore. Like I genuinely was always castigated for even a fib. I don't know if you grew up in this type of house. I couldn't call people liars. For some reason,
Mm.
I don't know about what did y'all have that? Maybe it was a West Indian thing.
No,
You
but it's
couldn't call
funny.
people
I
liars.
will tell my kids, I go, it's a strong word. I go, they lied, but does that make them a liar? I go, you just think about it.
Right. Like
I don't
if
care.
I said I hated something, it would be like, well, do you really hate it? Or do you just not like it? Because hate is a strong word. And sometimes I'd be like, yeah, no, I hate cauliflower. Like, quit putting that in front of me. I don't just dislike it. I despise it.
Yeah.
You know, part of my wanting to learn vocabulary was just so that I could have more ways to explain. Like, no, really, I mean this.
Yeah.
So where do you feel like this book series exists in our current climate in terms of necessity, in terms of how it can be used as tools?
I think you hit it on the nose. It's about truth telling. It's about not trying to save the conversation for later, or I'll tell you when you grow up, or you wouldn't understand. It's about actually being candid with kids, respecting their intelligence, respecting their curiosity, and respecting their experiences, right? And so each of the books is trying to not finish a conversation. So our Israel-Palestine book isn't finishing the conversation, isn't saying everything that there is to say about it, because that would be impossible. It's starting the conversation. It's creating the context for that conversation to go on and on and on. And it's really about opening a door on both sides for the kid who's being introduced sometimes to a new thing, or sometimes to a thing that they're already aware of, but want the sort of concrete words, but also for the grown-up who's likely there reading with them, parent, auntie, uncle, teacher, you name it, who needs that fear taken down a notch to just have the conversation, right? Because we walk in with all these sorts of fears. Oh, I'm going to ruin my kid's life. Oh, they're not ready yet. Oh, they need to be a teenager. Oh, if I tell them about this, what if they do drugs because I tell them about drugs, right? So it's like all these weird, complicated feelings then gets us to sort of bottle up and go, oh, I don't want to have this conversation. And so it loosens that fear and allows parents to go, oh, my kid's actually okay. Oh, my kid has questions. Oh, I have thoughts and ideas that I can share. And now that conversation, instead of happening once, is an ongoing one that actually can happen across weeks and years and grow and grow and grow. So where does it fit in the climate today? I think our kids desperately need signposts and sort of flags in the ground, because we do live in a world where so many of the people in power have basically said up is down, left is right. What you saw with your own eyes wasn't real, and that's not what happened. In fact, it was the opposite of that. And why don't you agree with me? And also, I will threaten you if you don't agree with me. It's a very tenuous and scary time to live. And so just to have that validation to go, yeah, the thing that I saw felt like this and is this, and actually have someone giving you those words back, giving you the comfort and the confidence, both as a grown-up and as a kid, to know something's real and tangible and true.
I feel like there's probably some people who are like, well, you know, we didn't need this, but these kids need this. I feel like I would have really appreciated as a kid, like these, like even if they were just all at the library and I could just pick one by one, like we talking about this week, you know. But I feel like parents too, there's so much that my mom just was not equipped to address because of her upbringing, because of her ignorance about a topic, etc. And so there's a lot. I think what you've done here too is not just equip the kids, but like you really have equipped parents in a way where there is a concerted effort to handicap them. Like on a daily basis, I just see such an effort to say like, oh, it's about parents' rights, but it's really not. It's about like keeping parents stupid and their kids stupider.
Yeah.
How do you talk to your kids about the current climate?
It's pretty candid. I like to listen a lot more than I try and talk with my kids, and that might sound counterintuitive. But if I create enough space for my kids to feel comfortable to bring me stuff, then I try and listen and ask questions. Because sometimes it's not about reframing their ideas or teaching them some new thing. It's about actually letting them fully share their experience in a way that they won't be judged, or in a way that they won't be sort of given a lecture over, right? And then what typically happens is I'll offer back some of my experiences. Oh, here's what it was like when I was a kid, or here's what it's like for me today. And then maybe a little nugget of truth inside there. But kids are so used to getting talked down to, so used to getting lectured. And so I find, my kids know they can kind of bring me anything. And so, we're having conversations about everything, trans rights, Elon Musk, democracy. My kids were dialed in and tuned into the election in a way that I just never could have imagined at their age. Like my 6-year-old can articulate thoughts and feelings about our president. You know what I mean? Like that's that.
My friend was just telling me that the other day, that her son was like, I don't like President Trump. I was like, in 6th grade, I know that when I was 6, no one in my class knew who the president was. Like, I know that.
Yeah. No, look, it was a different time in some ways, but as much as we've, talk down to our kids about their sort of chronic onlineness and how much they spend on their devices and screen time and anxiety and blah, 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 which a lot of that I actually think is true. It has opened our kids to a world of information and understanding and the ability to dig deeper and to go find answers to things and experiences that aren't their own. I actually think it's really incredible. And I think, I look at Gen Z and I look at Gen Alpha, and with all of their foibles around a bunch of different stuff that maybe we as millennials had growing up or whatever, or the Generation X or the boomers, I think they are more driven towards activism. I think they are more driven towards inclusion and belonging. Yeah. I think they are more welcoming and accepting. And I also think they don't put up with anything. Like they're not just trying to take the pat answers, or this is the way that it's always been done as a given. Of course, that's not all of those generations, but I see that very strongly in my own kids.
How did your style of parenting form?
I didn't grow up with a dad. He left when I was about 4. I would later reconcile with him, and he said that, when I was born, I was the youngest of 4 kids, that it was like a truck full of heroin had backed up in the neighborhood. That's how readily available drugs were. And so he and my mom were both addicts. My mom decided to get clean, moves across town, says, Dad, you can come when you get clean. He never gets clean, or at least by the time he does, I don't see him.
This is in Oregon?
This is in Oregon.
Damn, they was putting heroin on the streets in Oregon?
Putting heroin on the streets in Oregon. And so I grew up without a dad. Mom worked nights as a nurse, doing the best she could to put food on the table, but wasn't
Shout out to the nurses. My mother is a nurse.
But she wasn't always there for me emotionally. And so I struggled a lot as a kid. I struggled to read. I wasn't proficiently reading until about 7th or 8th grade. I always got bad grades, even though I was a really smart kid. I was the kid with all the potential in the classroom, but never really doing well. I would later find out that I was dealing with really sort of chronic depression. And I remember like wanting somebody to just shoot straight with me, to just like to see that I wasn't growing up with a dad, and I was, going home after school by myself, and that like I just wanted somebody to notice all those things. And if they did, they never said anything. So by the time I became a grown-up, I was like, okay, childhood actually isn't easy for every child. In fact, it might not be easy for any child. And so this like, oh, let kids be kids. Oh, protect their innocence. I'll let them have fun and grow up. I think minimizes the real experiences that kids have around racism, around discrimination, around misogyny, around bullying, around abuse, whether that's domestic violence in the home, sexual abuse, you name it. And so I thought, I'm actually going to try and have every conversation too early. I'm going to be sort of uncomfortably honest with my kids, especially when they ask me about something. I'm going to be very direct with them early on, so they know I'm never going to shoot back one of their questions and give them a pat answer, or not acknowledge them or save it for later. I'm always actually going to engage directly. And I'm always going to try and foster room for a conversation, so they never have to be alone with these thoughts and feelings, which is actually the harder part, right? And
I think I'm in therapy right now.
and that's a part of our books, is like that's they're therapeutic in that way. They actually speak to our 7-year-old self. And I remember with one of my youngest, when they were, oh gosh, maybe 5, maybe 6. Where do babies come from, Dad? Oh, I would love to explain that to you. I get out a pad of paper, and I'm drawing biology. I'm explaining. Here's what happens: seed, egg, blah blah blah. I go, does this make sense? Oh yeah, but what's that thing right there? Oh yeah, let me draw that a little more clearly. And this is in the car. The parking lot feels like a Safeway, right? And they were okay. I was okay. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I remember when my wife and I got married, I told her that story, and she's like, "You did what?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, we had the conversation." I go, "We can have it again." Is one of our other kids, and she was like, "Well, but like," and all of a sudden it was like she didn't even know what she was afraid of. It was just like, "But what could happen?" Right? When we were driving, my son, he's like 7 at the time. We passed by a strip club. He's like, "What's a gentleman's club?" Because he saw it's like gentlemen, something something. And I was like, "Oh, you want to know what that is?" And we're on the way to school. All of our kids are in the car, right? And I was like, "Oh, well," and it led to this amazing conversation about our bodies, about intimacy, about relationships, about all of these things. And my wife was like, "I cannot believe you did that." Not in a sort of castigating way, but in a way where it's sort of like, I didn't expect that actually to be a thing and okay, but also to go as positive, like that our kids engage with it in a meaningful way.
Kids are not having conversations about things from the same place that adults are.
Yeah.
Like, they are having genuine, curious conversations that don't carry judgment in the same way.
They don't have all the baggage.
They don't have the baggage. So it's a different conversation to, like, what's a gentleman's club? Well, can I just hear even an excerpt of how that answer was?
Yeah. Well, I was like, well, typically women stand on a stage with a pole, and then I go and they undress their clothes to show their bodies to typically men who are there to pay them money to watch them undress. And of course their question was like, why would anybody do that? And I go, well, for the women, I go, it's typically a job. I go, they get paid money to do this, both getting paid as a salary or, hourly, and also from the tips, right? And I go, men bring cash and they will set it on there, and they like the enjoyment of watching these women do this. And of course my kids go, but why would they enjoy that? So we're getting further in. I go, because it's interesting to them and attractive them to see their bodies, right? Why is that? So we're getting into like, okay, why are people attracted to it? In some ways, the conversation actually got more innocent the further we went in, right? Because kids want to unpack that stuff. Now, there's all sorts of bad ways to probably have a conversation, but the easiest way and the best way is just to be honest about the actual mechanics of the thing. And then you go,
that's the thing right there. It's the mechanics. Like, the way you just explained it is like, yeah, that is what it is. like I did not need to add in like, and these men are usually having terrible marriages, and they're drunks, and they're hard in their pants. Like, that's not necessary. That's not necessary. But I cut you off. Continue. I'm so fascinated.
I think Well, look, I get to travel around now to go talk with elementary schools. It's my favorite thing that I do as a part of my job, even though I don't get paid for it. And I'll meet with 500 K through 5. And I'll do much of what I'm doing here. I'll tell my story. I'll talk about my book. I'll read my book. I'll talk about these big ideas, why we made these books for kids. And of course, a couple of kids will raise their hand and go, oh, I have your book, or I have this book, or this is my favorite book. But I always end in the same way. I say, if you could write a kid's book about anything, this is elementary school students, by the way. If you could write a kid's book about anything, what would you write about? And kids, you think it'd all be Minecraft, candy, and video games, and I like ponies, or I like skateboarding. No, kids will come with the heaviest,
Right.
most consequential topics. I've had, kids pitch me, you should do a kid's book about toxic relationships. I would do a kid's book about abuse. I would do a kid's book about nuclear warfare.
Ooh.
I would do a kid's book about having an incarcerated parent. And often what's happening when kids are saying these topics is they're speaking towards a personal experience, or at least a personal interest of their own, right? And kids will grab me afterwards and go, I didn't get a chance to tell you my idea. I really think you should do a book on this. And then, of course, they've got me there, and they'll go, and here's why. And they'll share an experience that they had. Often that was around somebody being racist towards them, somebody bullying them, somebody, a parent. One kid grabbed me afterwards, a third grader, and said, my dad used to abuse me, and now he's in jail, and my mom and I are safe now. And she was telling me this, not so that she would have a book for herself. She's saying some other kid needs this book. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. She's offering up her life experiences, going, here's why you should go do some work somewhere else for some other kid. And in that way, like a whole bunch of things are happening as I watch kids feel empowered. I watch kids feel validated for their own experiences, right? Yeah. I watch kids not feel so alone, right? And and you've got kids saying some of the most vulnerable stuff in front of the whole student body, because in some sense, all I've done is shown up and said, it's okay.
Yeah.
I've modeled how you can do this, which is I'm going to share my story very vulnerably. Y'all can do that back to me, and it's going to be okay. And everybody's going to be awesome. And I'll watch teachers sort of on the sidelines, not gasp quite, but sort of their jaws on the floor going, what happened to our kids? Like our kids they're showing up in a totally different way.
That last line, they're showing up in a totally different way, is what I think is so important in the reality that kids become adults. And we need adults to show up in a different way if this world is going to save itself. And that starts with how they get to be seen as kids. And one of the things that really scares me, particularly in the United States, is just the effort that is made to create adults that don't know how to show up for themselves, that don't know how to understand, like they don't know how to understand themselves, because there's no curiosity fostered to understand themselves, let alone other people, right? To understand this planet and how we all. So what I really love about the series is that it fosters from an early age this concept that the world is yours. Like all of these experiences, topics, etc., are available for you to understand, whether they happen to you or whether they impact you. But they are, when I say the world is yours, that's also like a part of your responsibility to protect. And I think that kids see that as like something exciting versus whereas adults see that as obligation.
Yeah.
Like with the masks, I just remember people being like, the kids don't want to wear the mask. Kids don't give a goddamn. They like, is Spider-Man on the mask?
Yeah.
If Spider-Man's on the mask, I'm wearing the mask, But adults are like, no, if I'm wearing a mask, you're expecting me to be obligated for this other human being. And it's like, why is that a problem for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some questions from the people. Shamika says, Mr. Memory, is your work at the local library, and is there a kid's book about puberty?
Yes and yes. We've sold over 1 million books, I think, across 5 to 6 years. And we have great relationships with libraries, with schools, school districts, of course, indie bookstores and big box bookstores. So you can kind of find the books anywhere. And a kid's book about puberty is definitely in there.
There you go. Paloma says, Mr. Memory, do you seek collaboration with professionals or people representing communities that you're discussing?
I love this. I love it. This is like a trap question that I know is actually well-intentioned. It is always about representing those identities from members of those communities who represent those identities. I've had books pitched to me by folks who work with folks, who help certain folks. You can imagine this is like whether that's folks who are deaf or blind, whether that's folks who are houseless, and they go, I'm an expert at this.
You're not
I've
houseless,
done work
though.
in the nonprofit world. I should write this book. And I go, but is this a part of your own experience?
Yeah.
It's a part of your identity. Is this a part of, so we always say no on that front and opt for somebody who is, who lives inside that identity. There's a couple rare exceptions. And those are our historical books. A kid's book about Israel and Palestine is a history. It's a history book. So we found a historian. A kid's book about the Tulsa Race Massacre is a history book. We found a historian, right? And then it's about trying to find the right historian that we think is going to reflect the story in a way that's going to be meaningful for kids and a conversation starter.
There you go, guys. You was ready for that one. It's like, I've answered this question several times. Next question. Miss Seals and Mr. Memory, I was a kid told by adults to not worry about adult things, which was devaluing as a kid who had questions. These books help both adults and kids. Thank you. So that was more of a comment than a question. I was one of those kids too, though, like by certain adults. My mom didn't do that. My mom wouldn't say, like, I remember, like, I've seen way too many movies that I shouldn't have seen because my mom was just like, we're going to the movies.
Yeah, you go see it sometime.
Like, I remember when I went to, we went to see Pulp Fiction, and the person at the door was like, are you sure? And my mom was like, just give me the ticket.
Wait, here's what I love, and I've seen this happen over and over again, is it often takes one or two safe grown-ups who are in close proximity to us to determine who we are able to become when we are grown-ups. Okay. So
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. Say one more time.
It takes one or two safe grown-ups to determine who we can become when we're grown-ups. Okay. So your mom's lack of fear around bringing you to that movie, around having certain conversations with you, not batting back those adult things. She go, I'm going to pull you right in. To me, I go, that's who you are today. Actually, she set the ceiling much higher to go, oh yeah, go run, Amanda, go. And for me, huge credit to my mom. No conversation was off limits. Just genuinely, no conversation was off limits with my mom. That doesn't mean we always had them, but it wasn't off limits. She never said, oh, don't worry about that. You're not old enough for that. And that, I think, raised that bar. And so the reason why we have a lot of grown-ups who go, oh, you can't do that, is because that's what their parents did with them.
Well, we love what you are doing with these books and giving parents the opportunity to do exactly what you just said, because I really feel like also if you're in a single parent home, these books can help fill a gap that another person physically being there would possibly be filling. I know, like, in my single parent home, I feel like these books would have been really helpful because if my father had been there, it would have been even less conversation. So I just remember my dad trying to talk to me about sex, and we were snowed in like, he had decided we were going to go skiing. I don't like skiing, but okay, we're going skiing. And we were snowed in, and there was a giant glass of orange juice. He was always giving me like more portions than I needed. And there was a giant glass of orange juice, and he was like, so let's talk about the birds and the bees. And I was like, I don't want to talk about this at all. And he was like, well, you can either drink that whole glass of orange juice or talk about this. Y'all, when I tell you, I was like, glug, 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 glug. Ta-da!
How old were you then?
I was 12. Like, I had already seen a porno.
Yeah. Well, 12 it's just too late. It's like, kids know.
I already know, and I already don't like you, and this is already too much.
And the fact that he was like birds and the bee, it's just like, why do we use this language?
Why doctor
adults? Yeah, it's like, what's the malady?
No, 12 was too late. I saw a porno at 8.
Yeah.
I don't even know if my mom knows
that's
that.
why like starting those conversations seems insane at 5, 6, and 7. The problem is if you don't start them then, they have already been had somewhere else.
Mm,
Your kid's 3rd grade best friend has had that conversation with that, like somewhere else where
yes.
this happened, and now kids got the internet. It's like, then why not? What's the risk in actually having it in that safe environment with you where your kids can ask you whatever questions you want because you're the safe grown-up, right? But the moment you go, oh no, it's too early, kids will just find that answer somewhere else.
Facts on facts on facts. Do you have any releases coming out soon that you've already
Oh
publicized
gosh,
that you can speak on?
I my mind is mostly in the books that we're working on now.
Do you talk about those before they come out?
Not yeah, not usually. So Penguin Random House and DK bought the publishing business last summer. So now I run a kids book about imprint underneath the big PRH umbrella, which has been awesome and wonderful. And they're really letting me sort of cook on just the book projects that I think are really worthwhile. And so as a part of that, we're bringing in the full backlist of 200 titles, which you can see.
Dang!
Yeah.
Crates!
I had to like make a special sell all 200 titles into the front list. And so those are being published in batches of 25 until we're done, basically every month of the first 6 months of this year.
Oh, wow.
So all of those are coming out. So they're all getting sort of reissued by DK and sort of a new fun format with all the nerdy book stuff that I love, just the colored end sheets and stuff like that. But I know we have a book about self-love by Brandon Farbstein, a really incredible book. We've got a book on chronic illness that's coming out. It's a really lovely book by Gigi Robinson and a number of others. I mean, they're on the Kids Co website. They're on the PRH website. They're on the DK website, of course, on Amazon and everywhere else. So shop where you shop. People buy books where they buy books. And if you've thought of the topic, we've probably already done it. And if we haven't already done it, then maybe reach out. Maybe you can do that topic.
There you go. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for your service because this really is a service. And yeah, you have an email coming from me shortly, by the way.
All right.
Finally.
All right. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.
Y'all. We back. What do y'all think my book would be? What would my book be? A kid's book about what? Part of me want to do an adult book. An adult book about kids. Like, I mean, that's what I want to do. An adult book about your inner child. An adult book about, well, I mean, that's not the thing though. The thing is a kid's book. Like, all right. A kid's book I wouldn't feel comfortable doing a kid's book about autism, but a kid's book about speaking up. A kid's book about speaking up. A kid's book about being yourself. A kid's book about being yourself. That because Jelani was saying that's like that they choose who does the books based on have they lived it. And boy, I tell you, I done lived the good, the bad, and the ugly about being myself. I tell you that. The thing about being yourself is that it is a constant effort and journey and joy. So showing up authentically, being yourself, is I always say it's hard to stick to your guns when it feels like everyone else's is pointed at you. So like when people will ask me, like, what's your advice on getting into the entertainment business? I never tell them like, oh, go take a class. I never tell them like, get an agent. I tell them my advice on getting into the entertainment business is make sure you're surrounded by people that know you as well as you know you, that believe in you as well as you believe in you, because there's going to be times in this process where doubt and confusion and, things bigger than you might make you question who you really are. And you're going to need those mirrors to see that reflection and be reminded. Like, I feel like I always had that. Sometimes even by like the worst people. I've dated some terrible niggas, but they knew who I was. That's part of why they were so terrible to me. But they knew who I was. And so there were times when I would be kind of floundering about or doubtful about just myself in the space. And they would be able to be like, no. I always tell y'all, Boldy James is terrible. But I tell you what, he gave me a line that I still live in to this day. Remember, you the plug. Always remember that you the plug. And I'm like, dang, you right. You right. I am the plug. He would always say that. Like, these managers, these agents, these producers, like, they need artists and people like you in order to do what they do. So you are the plug. The comedy is that it is drug reference. And if you know his work, you're like, that makes sense. All right, so y'all have, okay, critical thinking as one. That's a good one. Kids' book about critical thinking. Ooh, I wonder if they already have that one. Let's see. Is there a kids' book about critical thinking? A kids' book about critical thinking? Yes, there is. Good. No, there isn't. It says kids' book. No, I didn't say kids' book. I said a kids' book about critical thinking. Nope. There is no a kid's book about critical thinking. There's no kid's book about critical thinking. That sounds like a good one. A kid's book about critical thinking, a kid's book about being yourself, a kid's book about authenticity, a kid's book about changing the system. I think a kid's book about authenticity sounds real. I don't know if that would sell because remember, it's a business. But a kid's book about critical thinking, let me write these down. A kid's book about critical thinking, a kid's book about authenticity. Y'all, I was supposed to go somewhere today and the plans changed. And when I tell you, I'm so relieved. Okay, hold on one second. So what did we say? We said a kid's book about authenticity, critical thinking, being yourself. I think those are my favorites. Being an empath. Ooh. Ooh. They have one about empathy that I do know. Mandanesia said a book about standing on business, spelled BITNESS. A kid's book about standing on business is definitely. I need y'all to know that the plan's changing today. Like it's unfortunate that I'm not going to see that person, but when I tell you, it feels like I regained like an entire day of life. So, man. All right. So let me tell y'all real quick, side effects of transparency is this week's episode for small doses. And you can check out a little clip of it right here. And then when we come back, we have our critical thinking exercise of the week. So that there are times where I've had to check myself because I'm giving TMI. And TMI, not just, I know that there are times where I've had to check myself because I'm giving TMI. And TMI, not just in, I'm saying stuff that really I need to just not share with the public like that, but also feelings and thoughts that I don't need to share with the public like that, but also like energy. You know, like when the people was harassing me and attacking me all through the media last year and I was going through like a whole nervous breakdown and I was basically having that nervous breakdown on the internet. was TMI. Now, some people might say, no, Amanda, that felt like you were just being transparent. And I guess there is a certain level of subjectivity where the Venn diagram covers each other, right? Where it intersects. Because to me, TMI can most easily be identified as when it is self-serving, whereas transparency is when the details are actually imperative to understanding. So check that out, the latest episode of Small Doses Podcast, Side Effects of Transparency. Side Effects of Transparency. Let's get into our critical thinking exercise of the week. AmandaLand. Let's get it. Okay, so this news cycle that's going on right now is really all about Cory Booker, right? And that Cory Booker was talking for the longest time that anyone has talked in the at the podium in the Senate. The longest filibuster had been held by Strom Thurmond in challenging the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is not an actual filibuster because Cory Booker was not holding up legislation. Oftentimes a filibuster is done to continue to be able to whip votes while the process is happening. There's also this effort to kind of just slow process. But nonetheless, he got up there and he talked, and there it is. People had responses to this. So there's been a lot of responses to this that I have seen. And my response to this was, I guess, well, my response to this was this. Hold on, it's loading. What? Why is it not playing my video? Quit playing with me. Your browser is having trouble sharing your video. This can happen if the file is invalid. The file is not invalid. Okay. But I'm going to do something really quick because I am able to, and bear with me. This will happen fairly quickly. So one thing that I want to talk about with the critical thinking exercise as it relates to this is what moves you? What moves you? What are behaviors, actions, reactions that cause you, what are behaviors and actions that cause you to react with action when it's particularly in the context of community, politics, etc.? I ask this question because there is a narrative around Cory Booker's speech that says that this is invoking hope. It can invoke courage. It can invoke action. And I am curious to know from you all, what are the types of things that you see that bring that about for you? So Cory Booker talked for a hella long time. And y'all are like, we're gonna be okay. No, you're not. No, we're not. Oh my God. So this was me being just very in the moment. Let's see some of your responses. So there is the deflection. Five Fight says deflection moves them to anger, because I don't know her pronouns. I don't know their pronouns. Danny says injustice, discrimination. Christina says people caring for other people, actions, not words. People who are doing work to feed people. Humera says injustice, 3 exclamation points. Mariandre says invoke hope and action to the people in that plane of consciousness, but not for those who think deeper. We'll get back to that. Let's see. There were some other dopes. So Brandon McGrath says the spread of misinformation, and lack of action from others. That's a great one, Fatima. So this topic says a lot, right? Because Cory Booker and his presentation speaks, and the response to it gives us somewhat of a litmus test on where, like, we as a people are in terms of a nation that can actually stand and deliver for itself. And when I see you guys here, there seems to be like a very cohesive mindset that it really isn't doing a lot. Now, I posted that video, and here were some of the responses that I got on YouTube. One person said, well, Turk Tim, Timme, says the person who can never find any good in any situation and wonder why you're highly disliked. People aren't naive. Some just have hope and faith. People understand voting properly and getting rich people out of the elections, which hopefully will make a change. And I thought this comment was interesting because, well, one, like there's a need to insult me for no reason. But I think that there's also just a very delusional understanding here of what people understand. And that for me is part of the reason why we even are in this position, because there's far too much assumption that everybody has the same information. And that assumption keeps a lot of people from even feeling like it is their responsibility to educate or to, inform. As Adrian so aptly states here, do naive people even know they're naive? Otherwise, they wouldn't be naive. And Evelise, I love that name. Am I even pronouncing it properly? Ivelisse. Either way, I'm with it. I think this comment shows how lost some people still are, even with everything we are seeing. I agree. Like, I think that there's also a confidence in this commentary that is disconcerting and that speaks to the work that we're doing here at Views from AmandaLand. So another person said, Amanda, what have you done to help? Please tell me, because last time I checked, you decided to publicly drag Kamala Harris during election time for some minor-ish when you knew who she was up against. So you had a small part in driving away some of her votes by your supporters. Now we're here, and you are downplaying Cory Booker for doing, quote unquote, something in the face of the country's ongoing catastrophe. Girl, bye. I'm going to take a sip of water. So what I think is interesting in this is also that people have framed my checking of Kamala Harris and my challenging, which is not a public drag, but my challenging of Kamala Harris around her stating that this is not a racist country, my challenging her campaign to do coalition building with folks that were further on the left, my challenging her campaign to acknowledge the need to ask for a ceasefire in Gaza. People, they read a headline or they see somebody else's video about something and they decide that that's what it is. And that was the work, right? Like that was the effort made by those who were paid to discredit my voice, because I had so many followers and I was making genuine challenges to her campaign that, had a groundswell formed, would force them to actually do what could possibly have been very, very helpful in pushing back against the inevitable pressing of Project 2025 to where we are. That being said, because I am a leader and I can lead the people. I know that. I have that ability. I've stood in front of crowds of thousands and got them to sing along and say, like, I know that. They know that too. But the truth of the matter is that when I see comments like this actually, to me, is reflective of the naivete that the last person thinks doesn't exist. Because what Cory Booker did was not something. And at the end of the day, even if you feel like it is something, I'm not sure why what he did is also not seen as some minor-ish. It's just, it's not, we should always be questioning politicians. We should always be cynical about our government. Always. We should always be challenging what is being done. This next person said, "Did I join Patreon for nothing? I don't think anyone thought that," meaning that we're going to be okay. "It's still historic. Can you find anything positive about what happened tonight? I try to roll with you, but you be on BS." I don't know what this lady's real name is, because I really want to just remove her from the Patreon. However, so yes, you did join Patreon for nothing if you expected a space that would honor platitudes, that would honor empty actions, that would honor political theater and performative politics. Because here at AmandaLand and in the SEAL Squad, we are a relatively small group of people who have big hearts and big ideas. And we understand that that's always the way it goes. It is always a small group of people who have to do the big work, y'all. Okay? It's always a small group of people that got to do the big work, because everyone is special, but to be in touch is rare. Okay? To be on the higher vibration is rare, because it requires responsibility and obligation beyond the capacity that most people seem to be able to grasp. It requires accountability that most people are not able to keep themselves to. So, if Cory Booker had been up there in that speech and been disruptive, I would have had a different response. Now, there are great spaces that do have similar responses. This person said, besides the fact that he supports funding a genocide, why didn't he do this when there was an actual bill on the floor like the GOP spending bill that recently passed? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, correct. This is asking real questions, challenging real questions. Next person says, he didn't stop a single bill, kissed Israel's butt, and his stunt is to fundraise. He's a clown And so are you for getting duped. This show was about bringing people back to a democratic fold to keep them folded like a napkin. What is a folded napkin? A napkin that's not being used to clean anything up. And that is how this country stays functioning in corruption, by having a bunch of people who are folded napkins into the fold of the establishment. I loved this comment. They said, I like how when the ladies wore pink, it was performative nonsense, and it was. But when a man does equally pathetic performative nonsense, it's important. These people are the checks and balances. They need to do their job, and instead, they're campaigning for 2028. I so appreciate the depth of commentary and knowledge from people who think like this. These comments came under a post by Dear White Staffers that was a shared post with pro something, and they ate them. When I tell you they ate them up. And I was so appreciative, because when you see those other comments, it can really, oh my gosh, it can demoralize you and make you feel like, my goodness, like, is this really all there is out there? No, that is not all there is out there. That is not all there is out there. And somebody in here is in the chat talking a little crazy. And so I am going through the chat right now to see why they're talking like that. Okay, yeah, get at Joe out of here. Because at Joe just told Isabel to shut her face. Thank you, Rolando. Rolando be using that wrench, y'all. Get out of here. We must protect the space. Protecting the space means we don't need to respond to people the way that these people responded to me. We don't need to lead with insults when we disagree. By the way, unless they start with an insult. If you start with an insult, I can't promise I'm going to not come back with an insult. But I don't have to disagree with you by leading with an insult. I have done that, and I might do it again. But it's wrong when I do it. So we're clear. It's wrong when I do it. And thank you all in here for pouring into Isabel. The truth of the matter is that you don't even need to insult, because I didn't shade you. The facts is shading you. The facts are shading you. So for our critical thinking exercise, I would like to ask you all, what would you have liked to have seen Cory Booker address in this speech that he did? What would have moved you? What would have moved you? Oh, somebody was saying, I'm just trying to stay relevant. It's always weird to me when people say things like that. It's always funny to me, because it's like, I've been in this business since I was 8. Like, I don't need to try to stay anything. And I actually left Hollywood. So I don't need to try to do literally anything. Like, if I wanted to, I could literally say F y'all and go my merry way and live off residual checks. I was on a hit show for 5 seasons. I could just really simplify my life down to real bare bones and be okay. Like fully bare bones and be okay. Just so we're clear. I don't, and my spirit doesn't require relevance to feel full. Some people's spirits require relevance to feel full. But mine doesn't. I've worked through my codependency And it's just not a part of it. So here's some of the responses to the question I asked. What would you have liked to have seen Cory Booker say or do in that dais pulpit at the podium that would have led you to action? Said Cory Booker can go to heck in my book. Opportunity Zones bill was a scam and mess, and he knows it. What he is doing now is gearing up for a presidential bill. Opportunity Zones bill. Okay, so I actually don't know anything about that. So I'm looking it up. So the Opportunity Zones Bill, HR 5761, Opportunity Zones Transparency, Extension, and Improvement Act. This was introduced in the House September 27th, 2023. And it was co-sponsored by, I don't see Cory Booker listed. Well, it's a representative. Oh, sorry. It was mentioned. It was introduced in the House. Okay. So it was introduced in the House. Is this the bill that you're talking about? Please stop writing in all caps in this chat. I don't like that. So please stop doing that. Also, please do not tell me what to talk about and what not to talk about. I really don't think you all understand how irritating it is when you tell me, don't waste your energy on. I think in your minds, you feel like you're being encouraging, but the way that I receive that is like you're telling me what to do, and it doesn't bring me comfort. So please do not do that anymore. Anyways, so this bill says it revises rules and reinstates reporting requirements relating to qualified opportunity zones, economically distressed communities where new investments under specified conditions may be eligible for preferential tax treatment. The translation of that is basically developers coming in and building in underprivileged communities and getting preferential tax treatment. Specifically, the bill terminates the designation of zones that are disqualified due to median family income exceeding 130% of national median family income and permits states to identify and expand terminations of such zones. The bill also reinstates reporting requirements for qualified opportunity zones and imposes penalties for noncompliance with such requirements, extends the opportunity zone's temporary deferral period for qualifying capital gain. Well, anytime I see qualified capital gain, I'm gonna. So a lot of times these bills are written in very confusing language, just like that. This person continues to keep going, even though I just said I don't like that. Like, I don't know why sometimes y'all feel like you're teaching me about things that I literally be talking about. Like, I don't need you to teach me about who's a worthy opponent and who's not. I don't. I know the difference. I don't need you to tell me what the difference is. Okay. It's not, you're not schooling me. I am very well versed on the difference. Like, so here's some responses. Okay. If Booker called out his party, this is Nia. Hey, Nia. If Booker called out his party and called out himself for accepting money for AIPAC and for wanting to become a career politician, that would have moved me. Cassie Carnahan, I love this name. I love an alliteration, Cassie Carnahan said Cory could have talked about how each Democrat has failed us and the working class and taken accountability. Nia was not finished. Nia said, also, if Booker said that we need to remove super PAC funding, from political campaigns, starting with a resolution that he's been working on for years, I would be moved. Christina says, why Democrats never did one thing to make sure Trump was held accountable for his crimes against the people and why he as a felon was allowed to be president. What? I'm sorry that they emotionally abused you online last year, but why are you treating your followers like this, girl? Can you get this person out of here? It's kind of crazy because you giving MAGA, if you don't agree with me, you are blocked energy. I'm sorry that they emotionally abused you online, girl, last year, but why are you treating your followers like this? I am not treating my followers like anything. I don't allow people in my space that feel like it is okay to insult me. I don't allow anybody in my space that does not have the level of intellect that I want to engage with. So if you are here in my space, I expect that you are here in my space, one, because you respect me, and two, because you respect my intellect. So if I say something about something that you don't agree with, and your instinct is to tell me I'm wrong, then we don't need to be here. I am elevated in my knowledge about the thing I'm talking about. I listen to people who are elevated in knowledge about the things that I am interested in. And when they say things that may conflict with my thoughts about it, I don't say you're wrong. I say, let me look into that. Or I say, can you explain more? But that is not how folks interact oftentimes with me. They interact with me in, I don't like what you said. You're wrong. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. That is not a discourse that is valuable for me. That is not an exchange that is valuable for me. And I don't believe that any of that is coming from a genuine place of support or of curiosity so they can go. I don't want them around me, and they don't deserve the space that we have created here. That's how that works. That's how that works. So it's like there's a way to interact. There's a way to interact. And we had a really great conversation with Jelani Memory about how, him responding to his children and the way that they say things, he gives them space to speak about it, etc. And that's a really great framework for how we interact with each other. I have no problem listening to someone say what they're saying, but I'm going to correct you if what you're saying is, one, grounded in values that are different than mine. I won't even use the word correct in that space, but I will challenge you. Two, I will correct you if what you're saying is not grounded in facts. And the truth is, a lot of us don't want to be corrected and we don't want to be challenged. We take that as an attack on our person. The reality, though, is that when a lot of people come at me, they do not challenge my thoughts. They don't challenge my point of view on something. They don't challenge my facts. They challenge my character. They come and directly come to attack my person, or they come to attack my intellect. You feel me? Like if we just simply look at these comments, says the person who can never find any good in the situation, wonder why you're highly disliked. Like that's someone attacking my character. This person, please tell me why you decided to publicly drag. What have you done to help? That's someone literally attacking my character. This person, did I join Patreon for nothing? You are attacking my work. I'm just using me as an example that when people come at you and they lead with attacking your work, attacking your person, attacking your character, that oftentimes is simply just manipulation and deflection. It's one thing if someone is specifically saying, because of you doing XYZ, 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 I feel like you are this. But people rarely have legitimate reasons when they do that. You understand? They rarely have legitimate reasons. And for people who do have legitimate reasons and, who are grounded in reality, we're unmoved by that type of chicanery. It's not cacophony, I should say. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Why are they knocking on my front door like that? Hold on. This is UPS. Hold on. I'll be back. Here's some music. When they be knocking like the cops, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. So yeah, let's get some more. Tiffany said electric slide time. So yeah, anyways, that's that. But let's get back to our question. So what else, what could Cory Booker have done or said that would inspire you in ways that these people are inspired? These people are saying they're inspired. It gave them hope. It gave them faith. And I would love to hear more from you guys about because we can say all day long that we need to challenge our politicians. We need to challenge our public servants. So let's talk about what are some actual ways that we can challenge them. What are some actual methods that can be done to challenge them? And also, for what it's worth, I'd love to hear from you guys if you even think it's even worth challenging them. So Trini Dominican says, the way people feel so confident in thinking they're sticking up for others when they sound ignorant as all get out is wild. Yes. Okay. So Celan84 says, I would have liked to see Booker condemned funding Izzy. He had the audacity to bring in John Lewis in his speech. Yes, he did. Thank you, Zenzeli. Zenzeli, are you from South Africa? Zenzeli sounds like a South African name. Fatima says, I would have liked to see him talk about what he actually will do to combat Trump's policies instead of telling us how he feels. I think that's a really great point, right? What are next steps, right? What are next steps? I think that's a really, really great point. There's a very, it's an easy road to just say how you feel. For me, I would have liked to have seen him at the very least have some very direct actions for the people. And that's something that I think is frustrating, is that I feel like none of these politicians are giving themselves direct actions, but they're also not giving the people direct actions. Like they'll just be like, what did I see Jamie Raskin telling people to do? Jamie Raskin was telling people like, you should set up your, he was telling some people to do something very basic that was not going to do nothing. Delisa feels like there is no reason to challenge them. Delisa says, no more challenging. We need to create our own party because these performative minions clearly don't care about the people. Julie E. Smith, MA, says, my major takeaway from all 25 hours was how he kept looping around to tell us that the people are the ones that have to do something about this administration, that we are the ones with the power. Lexi A says, we can challenge them, but I can't wait until the time comes when Blacks realize their power. I'm hoping in the future we collectively move away from the party. I think that we are collectively moving away from race as the thing that binds us in our power in this nation. I think that there is what needs to happen is a continued retention of, Black culture, Black history, all that, absolutely, yes. I also do think that until there is a shared value system amongst Black folks, there's going to be a continued fissure. There are immense fissures that prevent that type of connectivity and empowerment. Like you'll have people who consider me to be somebody who makes the Black community less strong. So if we can't even identify, from the same point of view, what our strengths and our weaknesses are, then it makes it really difficult for us to move as a unit. So as also the way that capitalism has so effectively served as a cancer, it's been very effective at just diminishing the ability for the Black community to become strengthened in an actual community. Like we say community, but it's a community in a word that just describes a group of people versus a community that describes people moving with a particular type of action. So I think it's something different that's happening right now, that's going to happen. Barry FT says, I don't trust them at all, and I'm like 95% at that feeling. They consistently just speak in circles like they're trying to rock us back to sleep and don't realize we're never going back to sleep. And I think for me, I really love being surrounded by people that feel that way. Our critical thinking gets improved by iron sharpening iron, by each of us being able to look at each other and willingly challenge each other. Me and Brandon Victor Dixon have like real conversations where we are challenging each other on a regular basis around politics, around how our socio-political ways of interacting with each other. And it's always from a place of deep respect. And sometimes I walk away from those conversations having to say, I got to go do more research. And then sometimes I walk away and it's like, okay, we agree to disagree. But I will tell you that Brandon, being my very good friend and having an immense amount of knowledge in a space that I was still learning in, is what really helped force me to dig even deeper in my learning, because it was someone whose values I know, whose values I trust, who was saying things that were different than to what I felt. But I knew that he had facts and I had feelings. And I will admit that in the beginning of that, I said to myself, like, oh, I don't know why he's saying that. And I had to check myself, because it was like, no, if he's saying that, he's saying it based on things that he knows. And you love and trust this person. So you should take that as a cue to then reassess your own thoughts and feelings against more facts. And that's what I did. And as I got more facts, I came to realize I did agree with him. And I tell him all the time. It is imperative for me to exist for y'all as a person of integrity that stands on business, that's accountable. Because we have so few folks that we can do that with, that we can trust in that with in our lives, and particularly in media. And I know how imperative it is to be getting information from people who you have that grounding force with, because it allows you to feel safe in expanding your mind and not feeling, paranoid about what they're possibly trying to steer you to do. Which is why in this election cycle, I actively decided to not be a part of the manipulating of the people to do what I feel would be best for them. Instead, I decided to inform and to educate. And I did so indiscriminately. I informed and educated about Trump. I informed and educated about Kamala Harris. I informed and educated about the Green Party as best as I could, from a place of being a part of the people, not from being a part of media or being a part of a political party. And some might have a problem with that. Clearly they do. You know, you could have steered people. Listen, I'm informing people. And if from that information they make decisions that they stand on, so be it. I will not lie. I won't do it. And I made that decision because when it came to Joe Biden, I was convinced by others that me talking honestly about Joe Biden was harmful to people because they needed to be basically glamored and there needed to be some form of conjecture that just would convince people, oh, don't worry about the bad things because this is bigger. There's a bigger issue at hand. And that made sense to me at the time. There's a bigger issue at hand, so we can't worry about the bad things. We just need to focus on the bigger issue. And some people are like, well, how could this not have been a bigger issue to you, Amanda? This was even bigger than it was last time. And that to me is the issue. How did the issue get bigger? How did the issue get bigger? We have someone tuning in from Doha, Qatar. Oh my gosh. Hold on, what's happening? How did the issue get bigger? I couldn't be a part of pretending. I don't want to do that. That to me does not form trust. Do you know how many people turned on Malcolm X? Because he felt like he could no longer be a part of the nation because he was informed of the problematic choices of the great honorable minister Elijah Muhammad and how he was impregnating people in his flock. And Malcolm was like, I can't be a part of this because I came out of living like that by following this. And in order for me to continue to be true to this, I cannot simply turn a blind eye to that because that would be me being hypocritical to the thing that saved me. That would be me being disingenuous to the thing that saved me. Thus, I would be being disingenuous to myself. He couldn't do it. And now people love to throw Malcolm's name around. They love to throw Malcolm's name around without acknowledging what Malcolm lost in order to stand in integrity. And he lost safety and he lost brotherhood. He lost a lot. You know? When I talked to Claudia de la Cruz of the PSL party and I say, you know, what do you feel like this election accomplished? What was the goal? And she was the presidential candidate for the People's Socialist and Liberation Party. And she said, you know, it was education. We got people educated that never would have even been interested in understanding. People became interested that may not have even bothered. Someone said, can you please go for Corey's record in this episode? And, you know, there's just a reality that I live by that other people don't live by. So I've had to come to that piece that when I see messages like the ones that have been in my comments and the ones that have been in the chat, when I see those types of messaging, I've had to say, you know, that's how you live. That's not how I live. And so you don't get to stay here in my space, whether it's digital or not. So thank you all for participating in the critical thinking exercise today. I would have liked to have seen Cory Booker stand up there and actually acknowledge the disingenuousness of the entire operation. I would have liked to have seen Cory Booker get up there and actually be challenging to the dysfunction that he's a part of. But they're not going to do it. I mean, I just saw a video where Jasmine Crockett was, oh my gosh, talking in circles about supporting Israel. And sometimes I'm just like, at what point does it really become, I'm saving America, so I'm willing to do this, and I feel like I'm a patriot because I'm doing this? At what point do we not realize that this idea of saving America is deeply couched in destroying everyone else? When do we do that? I just think it's frustrating. It's frustrating to continue to push that rhetoric because I don't consider it to be valid. You know, I don't consider it to be helpful. And I don't consider it to be a way to save the United States.
Woman, Governor Walz started out tonight by repeating this refrain that Israel has a right to defend itself. Yeah. Israel has just invaded Lebanon. Israel is now intimating that it could attack Iran. So shouldn't we be looking for a little more than just these platitudes about Israel having a right to defend itself? What is the limiting principle, especially when the U.S. is the one providing the armaments for Israel to wage these military campaigns, as you know, having voted for the National Security Supplemental back in April, which underwrote Israel's war effort?
I absolutely did vote for it. I voted for that along with every other supplemental that was available. And I will tell you this. It is important that people understand what diplomacy looks like. And it looks like the fact that this relationship between Israel and the United States has existed since before I was born. And guess what? This relationship will continue on in perpetuity even after I'm gone. And so when you look at Israel, I think it is important that people start to talk about the fact that the state of Israel versus their leadership. Because right now, or when I went to Israel, I know that the people were protesting Netanyahu because Netanyahu was reforming the courts. In addition to the fact that Netanyahu was under investigation along with people in his administration. Sound familiar? Does it sound like somebody else that you know? It sounds like Donald Trump to me, somebody that has reformed our courts that have decided that he now has a level of immunity that he should not be entitled to based on our laws, as well as somebody who is under criminal indictment, as well as somebody who has criminal convictions. And so different people do their votes for different reasons. But for me, when I'm looking forward and I'm trying to figure out what is going to happen, if for some reason, let's say we say, well, you know what? You had your Democratic election and we just don't like your leader, so we will leave you. Will that give permission to our allies to leave us if, God forbid, Donald Trump come back into power and then they leave us? And then that leaves us more insecure. So, I mean, everybody has their reasons for why they do stuff, but I will also tell you this, because the issue today has to do with the fact that Iran ended up firing missiles over into Israel.
After Israel invaded Lebanon.
Okay. But is Iran Lebanon, or is Iran?
No.
Okay. So
but this thing, it's a spiraling catastrophe that the Biden administration has done nothing to rein in.
Let's be clear. When the attacks, which I will say, everything that happened in Lebanon, or the initial attacks, at least that was more calculated, and it was more, it was specifically intended for who? For terrorists, correct? I mean, these are
you got to clarify what you're saying. I don't follow.
Hezbollah.
Right.
So Israel was attacking Hezbollah, correct?
Well, they've done a ground invasion into Lebanon.
I think sometimes it's best to just say, I don't want to have an informal conversation about this topic. Also, just, the hypocrisy of suggesting that it on responding to firing on Lebanon is problematic, but the United States funding the ability for Israel to fire on Syria, Lebanon, Iran is okay. This is the thing that I want folks to also understand. It's like, it is enough to just not rock with somebody because they won't say no to the genocide. It's enough. Like, it doesn't need to be deeper than that. Sometimes I'm like, well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't need to be deeper than that. Like, I feel like it's quite enough to just be like, I don't rock with these folks because they do not, they don't speak up about or speak up against the genocide, period. And there may be people who feel like there needs to be more. I'm not one of those people. I don't feel like there needs to be more. I don't
if
feel like
you
there
are a
needs to
U.S.
be-
citizen, either by birth
Oh, sorry. I don't think there needs to be a deeper reason. I think that's sufficient. Here's a picture of Jordy. Just take that in real quick. Just taking a picture of Jordy. Sometimes we just need to take a break. And just taking a picture of Jordy. Okay. Look at that. Look at that little baby. Look at how happy that baby is. If genocide isn't a deal breaker for you, then you're not someone that needs to have access to me. Thank you, Jessica. So now that we all agree on that, let me get into my PSA, my public seals announcement. AmandaLand. PSA. One of the reasons why we find ourselves constantly in circles when we're talking to folks is because there is such a deeply disparate amount of information that each person shares. The same way, there is also a deeply disparate amount of humility that each of us share. Some of us have a humbleness about education, information, and knowledge that others see as elitism when others are in possession of that which we don't have. And this continues to cause chasms that we don't have bridges to cross. Many rivers to cross, but I still haven't found my way. Like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Yeah. So, among the myriad of other things that divide and conquer, we have this thing that separates us. In the case of Cory Booker, one thing that separates a lot of us is just the constant around capitalism. This idea that capitalism, when it is in favor of you or your safety, or what you perceive to be safety, that it is fine. However, when we look at the United States and the way that it exists on this very small globe compared to the other planets that we have identified in the universe, the United States takes up space in a continued effort of violence. No other nation has the amount of military bases that the United States has across the globe, like not even in striking distance. No other nation incarcerates its citizens at the way and the rate of the United States. Not even striking distance. No other nation has been so deeply embroiled in the continuous effort to destabilize other nations in order to steal their resources by supplanting military and aid within their borders to protect them from the fire and the monster that they created. This is a nation that exists in violence, and violence that is supported by capitalism and that is 100% corrupt. You know, Wisconsin saw a success this week. Wisconsin saw success this week because Wisconsin and their Supreme Court voted Susan Crawford to win. Elon Musk put millions behind the person she was up against, and she won regardless. And so the Wisconsin Supreme Court remains a majority, quote unquote, liberal court. And if you've ever seen the women of the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, they don't play around. The importance of understanding this is that in her speech, she says, we showed that the Supreme Court in Wisconsin cannot be bought. Our courts can't be bought. Now, some people, may have looked at that and thought of it just in relation to simply Elon Musk. But the reality is that our structure of the United States is based on corruption. The violence that exists around the world is supported by the arms dealings of the United States and the continuing capitalist gain of folks by way of that. And that goes to climate change, etc. But in this particular instance, as it relates to Cory Booker stood up there for 25 hours, talked about the corruption of Doge, while he himself is an actual example of corruption. While he himself is an actual example of the continued effort of the United States to use violence to submit its will across the world. Here he is in his office with Yoav Gallant after the ICC, the International Criminal Court, issued a warrant for Gallant's arrest for starving children to death. So when I see people heralding him as some beacon of hope and faith, in my most positive and optimistic heart, I hope it's because they just don't know better. However, I also know that far too often, it's also because they couldn't care less as long as it serves them. So for all of us who don't think like that, continue to dig your heels into your integrity, to your morals, and to your ethics. Don't be swayed by those who fire back at you with insults or with degradation and denigration because you are not buying into what they see as hope and optimism and faith. We are the believers who understand that hope and optimism and faith must come from something real. God is real. Cory Booker is not. PSA. Hey, come on now. What's up, y'all? Show your love. It's the end of the show. Show your love. Thank you for joining. Show your love. I appreciate you. Show your love. Come on now. Hit me in the cash app, baby. Drop a super, baby. Thank you to all of you for sticking around. It was a long show and we hit the ground. Running towards the truth. 'Cause we believe you gotta face it for real. We believe. Hold on. Miriam! Oh my God, Miriam! Let me tell y'all about Miriam real quick. Let me show some love to Miriam real quick. Okay, Miriam ordered a pen, and I sent the pen to South Africa. And DHL did not tell Miriam that she got the pen, and then I didn't know that she did not. Sorry, DHL did not tell Miriam that the pen arrived, and then the pen also was not informed to me that the pen arrived. So what happened was they also asked me for information that I provided and then said, actually, that's not the information we needed. Then Miriam said, let me call them. Miriam reaches out to DHL and they like, well, actually, the pen has been here for 2 weeks. And so now we're charging you. What? Miriam, I don't know if you are a lawyer or a teacher or what, but I need y'all to understand that the email that Miriam replied to them back with was a master class in I am not the one. Okay? When I tell you, I am still shocked and impressed beyond measure at this email. Miriam was pulling the fine print. I don't know who y'all think y'all meant. Listen, it was so deep. Then they replied with nonsense, and Miriam said, I don't know who are y'all playing with? And then she replied again with even more points. It was an honor to read, honestly. Miriam is a GBV activist. I don't know what GBV means, but whatever it is, it has equipped you in ways that we could all learn. Okay? Because in that same week, someone had emailed me and was like, hey, my pen is marked delivered, but I didn't get it. So can you send me a refund? Gender-based violence. Facts on facts on facts. So I was like, well, the pen was marked delivered. Like, you need to address USPS. Like, I've done all the things that I did what I was supposed to do. And she said, oh, that's unfortunate. I'll have to go to my bank and dispute the charge. And it was like, what? I didn't do anything wrong here, and you want money back. And then, so I was feeling a little bit down. And then I had this exchange with Miriam, and I immediately refunded Miriam and was like, please let me know how I can compensate you for whatever the cost is of the fee. And Miriam was like, if you did not send this refund, please don't, because I got the pen to support you. But I had already sent the refund, and I was fine with it, Miriam. And now Miriam came here today to say, nah, you getting the money. Thank you, Miriam. And thank you for your service as a gender-based violence activist. You all do more to restore my faith and hope here in the SEAL Squad than Cory Booker or any of these politicians could do any day. And as a leader, as a teacher, as a speaker, as an empath, as an autistic, as a woman, as a Black person, keeping my faith and hope restored is imperative. As a seer, as a prophet, it is imperative. So thank you all so much for always showing up and showing out. And yeah, I'm just moved. I'm moved. So I appreciate everybody. This is our SEAL Squad. This is our Views from AmandaLand Friday. But we did a long show today. We did 3 hours today. So we got it together. Thank you to Jelani Memory and Chay Guerrero for joining us. Make sure to get you a kid's book about and support. And make sure to keep lifted. And remember, as we go into our moment of stillness, to lift up the souls of those who are being affected and harmed by this continuous duplicitousness and nefariousness in this global axis of evil, as well as those who are being driven by this in ways that they don't even know. So you all, I'll see you on Monday. 30 seconds of stillness. I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the Seal Squad. Views from AmandaLand. Live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV.